Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, a moment of silence, and the performance of the national anthem by the Cherry Run Elementary School singers under the direction of Pamela Wilson.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, my Cherry Run peeps.
Thank you so much, and thank you, parents, for bringing your wonderful, talented children out here tonight to join us. The board held a closed meeting earlier this evening, and the certified compliance immediately upon reconvening in the public, which preceded tonight's regular meeting. A few announcements before we begin tonight's meeting. Oh, yes, please go ahead.
I just want to acknowledge Principal Bibby back there. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, all of you. A few announcements before we begin tonight's meeting. If you would like to review a copy of the agenda and any agenda item that is being discussed tonight, that information is on the table by the auditorium entrance. Tonight's agenda is available by going to the school board on the FCPS homepage and selecting board docs under upcoming school board meetings. The meeting is also being streamed live online. Select school board from the full menu, then click on the watch live button on the school board meetings webpage. Please turn off or silence your cell phones. I will now call on Ms. Chu for announcements.
Thank you. This month, the month of April, will be Autism Awareness Month. Autism is a complex developmental disability that affects an individual's social interaction and communication. It is known as a spectrum disorder because it affects every individual in different ways and to varying degrees. Autism Awareness Month, celebrated every year in April, provides an opportunity for families, friends, and local communities to raise public awareness about and acceptance of autism. Sponsored by the Autism Society of America, or the ASA, this year's goal is to encourage friends and collaborators to work towards acceptance and appreciation of the unique aspects and talents of all people. Individuals and communities can get involved by participating in activities sponsored by their local ASA chapter or by promoting services related to autism. In addition, Mathematics Awareness Month is held each year in April to increase public understanding of and appreciation for mathematics. Sponsored by the Joint Policy Board for Mathematics, the goal is to increase the visibility of mathematics as a field of study and to communicate the power and intrigue in mathematics to a larger audience. The 2017 theme is Mathematics and Statistics, which takes a look at how both subjects play a significant role in addressing many real-world problems such as internet security, sustainability, disease, and much more. Research in these and other areas is ongoing, revealing new results and applications every day in fields such as medicine, manufacturing, energy, biotechnology, and business. Mathematics and statistics are important drivers of innovation in our technological world, in which new systems and methodologies continue to become more complex. This April, let's celebrate mathematics and statistics and the diverse researchers and students in these fields who are contributing much to furthering discoveries, solving problems, and finding beauty in our world. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will now turn the gavel over to Mrs. Strauss.
And I will call on Miss Evans for recognition.
Oh, thank you so much, Mrs. Strauss. I am delighted to recognize tonight the members of the 2016 Glasgow Middle School team that won the Gold Award at the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America competitions at both the state and the national levels. The school board extends our hearty congratulations to team members Lacey Callahan, Susan Connell, and Zara Green, as well as to their lead advisor, Angela DeHart, who teaches family and consumer science at Glasgow Middle School. The team competed in the STAR Food and Innovation event. Participants were required to demonstrate knowledge of the basic concepts of food production development by creating an original prototype formula, testing the product through focus groups, and developing a market strategy. To make the challenge even more difficult, the teams were limited to using an ancient grain. Not sure what ancient grains are, but they had to use an ancient grain. Teams had 5 minutes to set up a display unassisted and 10 minutes to deliver an oral presentation introducing the audience to a new food, attractively packaged and displayed. Lacey, Susan, and Zara demonstrated excellent planning and communication skills in working together. Their oral presentation, which introduced the judges to Magic Toaster pastries, was informative, creative, and delivered with poise. Earning a gold award was a well-deserved honor. I look forward to the day we'll see Magic Toaster pastries on our grocery shelves, and we will remember this evening where we met and congratulated the winners and the inventors. At this time, I would like to invite Lacey, Susan, and Zara, Ms. DeHart, and their families and friends from Glasgow Middle School to join me at the dais and have a photo with the school board. We now turn to item 2.05, National Board Certified Teacher Recognition. We are so delighted to welcome the members of our school board leadership team and National Board Certified Teachers and their guests. We are very pleased to recognize the Fairfax County teachers who have renewed their National Board Certification for the 2016 to 2017 school year. On behalf of the school board, I want to recognize you all for your dedication and contributions to the education of our students as they master the skills necessary to be successful in the 21st century as thinkers and responsible citizens. And it's now my pleasure to introduce our interim division superintendent, Dr. Steve Lockhart.
Thank you, Chairman Evans. First, let me say good evening, and I'd like to congratulate each of you on renewing your National Board Certification. Congratulations. You are all leaders striving to impact student learning on a daily basis. You make an incredible difference in our classrooms by using reflective practice to drive instruction, develop and demonstrate advanced teaching knowledge, implement best practices, and strive to communicate the importance of Portrait of a Graduate skills. You're accomplished educational professionals. The National Board Program was designed to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers and to generate ongoing improvement in schools. Nationwide, more than 112,000 teachers have achieved certification the past 27 years. National Board Certification is the most respected, voluntary, professional certification available in education. Teachers are certified in 25 different certificate areas, pre-K through 12th grade. Since the program's inception in FCPS over 22 years ago, 468 teachers in Fairfax County have become National Board Certified. 261 are currently teaching in our classrooms, and 58 teachers continue to serve our division in varying roles as leaders in our administrative or central office leadership. Nationally, FCPS is ranked 24th among all school districts in the nation with this number of National Board Certified teachers. We know what a commitment and what an effort it is to not only obtain the National Teacher Certification, but also then to continue to get recertified. So it is an incredible effort, and we're so appreciative. We're very proud of our teachers who gain this recognition, but also, as I said, recertify, and we are thrilled to have you as part of the ongoing FCPS team. So thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to introduce Lisa Barrow. She's the Director of Professional Growth and Career Development. Lisa.
Thank you, Dr. Lockhart. I am delighted to participate in the recognition of the accomplishments of these distinguished teachers, along with the school board, leadership team, administrators, and guests. We want to extend our gratitude to Mary Lou Carmack, Assistant Principal at Colvin Run, and who is also our Program Manager for the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards. The teachers we're recognizing tonight have earned their national certification by successfully completing a voluntary assessment program designed to recognize effective and accomplished teachers who have met high standards based on what teachers should know and be able to do. The process is designed to assess a teacher's ability to put into practice the 5 core propositions which demonstrate that teachers are committed to students and their learning, teachers know the subjects that they teach and how to teach those subjects to students. Teachers are responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. Teachers think systematically about their practice and learn from experience. Teachers are members of learning communities. In order to earn certification, teachers must analyze their teaching practice and ability to meet the needs of their students, submit videos of their teaching, and provide student work samples that demonstrate academic growth, all of which are examined through a process of reflective analysis. At this time, I'd like to introduce Martha Beal, who will share her experience and highlights of her journey towards NBCT renewal. Ms. Beal is an English teacher at West Springfield High School, where she serves as collaborative team leader and a mentor to aspiring poets. She's an active member of the National Council of Teachers of English, the Northern Virginia Writing Project, and has been recognized as one of the Washington Post Agnes Meyer Outstanding Teachers. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Beal.
Good evening. My neighbor is a proponent of public education, serving as a volunteer tutor at our local elementary school. While she considers me a wonderful teacher, she recently shared a perception about my professional life that baffled me. Years of successful teaching, she imagined, allowed me to pull materials out of a box, to reuse files as is, year after year, in a ready-to-go manner, akin to the microwave to table options abounding at area groceries. But for education to be a dynamic process for the student, it needs to be a dynamic process for the teacher, too. When I attended a Fairfax County in-service the year prior to my renewal, I was intrigued by a presentation on essential questions that texts pose. Materials included a reference to Kevin Burke's "What's the Big Idea?" question-driven ideas to motivate reading, writing, and thinking. For one of my National Board's renewal components, I adapted Burke's strategy of utilizing student-driven questions versus teacher-driven ones during our study of Ibsen's A Doll's House. Our rich discussions included students' questions relating Ibsen's plays to other works, from Shakespeare's Macbeth to Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. We also explored students' questions, which were relevant not only to Ibsen's play, but to modern life as well, from social expectations, human nature, relationships, and gender roles, to ostracism and isolation. For another National Board's renewals component, I discussed my collaborative work with my AP Literature team to strengthen students' writing by conducting blind table scoring or consensus scoring on our students' first-time writing. Think of a trio of AP teachers functioning in a manner similar to the June College Board AP reading. This scenario is not hard for me to envision, as I have served as an AP reader for multiple years, as has my department chair. All 3 teachers on my team are National Board certified, and the department chair, like me, has also completed the renewal process. Our approach elevated our individual and collective understanding of students' writing, helping us assess and strengthen our students' skills. But unlike the May AP Literature exam, our students had the opportunity to follow up with a workshop, enabling them to self-assess areas of strength and weakness in their respective writing before completing a second chance assessment. Planning with students' needs in mind has provided meaningful opportunities to maximize students' potential beyond the classroom as well. Under my mentorship, my seniors are submitting their original poetry to our school's literary magazine and an anthology of exemplary student work in the greater metropolitan area. By harnessing techniques in their own writing that published poets employ, they have become more adept at analyzing poetry, a key component of the AP Literature exam. Teachers engage dynamically in their practice, create an atmosphere where students engage dynamically in their classrooms. This growth mindset characterizes the core of our teaching, opening opportunities for intellectual risk-taking on the part of student and teacher alike. Thank you.
Can I take your class?
No. Thank you, Ms. Beal, for sharing your story with us. I'd like to take this opportunity to add some additional highlights of the NBCT program and FCPS. The certification process was updated with new standards and components in 2014, which has impacted the number of candidates seeking new certifications. The 4 components of each certificate area assess candidates on content knowledge, differentiation in instruction, teaching practice and learning environment, and being an effective and reflective practitioner. Updating the certification process has added flexibility and affordability to the program in recognition of the demands on teachers' time. I am pleased to report 4 dynamic teachers have persevered during the 3-year transition to new standards, and they're now in the final phase of submitting component 4 of their portfolio, which will be assessed by the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards this spring. They look forward to achieving certification in November 2017. Additionally, the Office of Professional Learning and Family Engagement is supporting 3 cohorts comprised of 44 teachers pursuing initial National Board certification, and 1 cohort supporting 23 teachers pursuing renewal of their certification. So next year, our celebration promises to be much larger. Dr. Lockard, and please join Kathleen Waltz, Executive Director of Professional Learning and Family Engagement, to present our certificates to our honorees. The following National Board Certified teachers have renewed their certificates. Honorees, when your name is called, please come forward to accept your certificate and walk towards the raised step and wait for the group picture. KJ An of Fairfax Villa Elementary School renewed Generalist Early Childhood Certificate. Principal Elizabeth Bumbry. Martha Beal of West Springfield High School renewed English Language Arts, Adolescence and Young Adulthood Certificate. Principal Michael Mukai. Barbara Benton of Longfellow Middle School renewed Mathematics Early Adolescence Certificate. Assistant Principal Wendy Eaton. Jenny Bruin, perhaps absent this evening, of Braddock Elementary School, renewed Generalist Middle Childhood Certificate. Principal Keisha Jackson Muir. Jennifer Butchko of Halley Elementary School renewed Generalist Middle Childhood Certificate. Principal Janie Shanetta. Mary Constantino of Westfield High School renewed Science, Adolescence, and Young Adulthood Certificate. Principal Anthony Copeland. Tara Dutton of Forestville Elementary School renewed Literacy, Reading Language Arts, Early and Middle Childhood Certificate. Principal Todd Franklin. Cassandra Haynes. No Cassandra this evening. I'm going to highlight Cassandra's certificate. Cassandra Haynes of Stort High School renewed Music, Early Adolescence through Young Adulthood Certificate. Principal Penny Gross. She is absent. Gail Height of Flores Elementary School renewed Generalist, Early Childhood Certificate. Principal Gail Porter. Stephen Henryson of Edison High School renewed Social Studies History, Adolescence, and Young Adulthood Certificate. Principal Pamela Brumfeld. Lynn Holmes of Center Ridge Elementary School renewed Generalist, Middle Childhood Certificate. Principal Margot Diaz-Pareja. Susan Phillips of Mountain View Alternative High School renewed English Language Arts, Adolescence, and Young Adulthood Certificate. Thank you. I apologize. Sorry. Anicia Robinson of Robinson Secondary Middle School renewed School Counseling Early Childhood through Young Adulthood Certificate. Principal Matt Eline. Austin Stevenson of Edison High School renewed English Language Arts, Adolescence, and Young Adulthood Certificate. Principal Pamela Brumfeld. And lastly, absent this evening, Kristen Stump of Franconia Elementary School, renewed Generalist Early Childhood Certificate, Principal Terry Udmans Hurd. So at this time, we would like to invite members of the school board, regions, our region leadership, our principals, and Dr. Erin Wigington to come forward for a group photo with our renewed National Board Certified teachers.
Yeah, we'll come back.
Oh, well done.
Perfect.
No. Oh, I'm not going to the photo. Oh, dear God, no. I'll be on the inside. Oh, I split. Do you want to speak straight up? And then I'll bow out so it's not some awkward goodbye?
I think we're.
And as the board members come back to the table and our teachers leave, we just want to thank you all for your dedication, for your hard work, for everything you do for our students. And we know that this award, the certification is so very prestigious, and it takes a tremendous amount of work and effort, and we appreciate what you do for our students and our families every day. So thank you again for joining us tonight to be recognized. And thank you for the principals and family members who came out to join them as well. We next turn to 3.01, citizen participation. Tonight, we have 10 speakers who have signed up to speak and 1 video testimony. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to not more than 3 minutes. The school board will not hear statements involving issues that have been scheduled for public hearings, such as capital improvement program, budget, and boundaries. Complaints regarding individual students or school-based employees should be directed to appropriate school principal or other school officials. Speakers should refrain from using personally identifiable information in connection with an individual student. Speakers are expected to deliver their comments with the decorum and respect appropriate to the conduct of the public's business. Please be mindful that there are often young children in audience at these meetings and watching at home, so language should be appropriate for all age levels. Thank you for your cooperation, and thanks to those who have come out to speak to us tonight. I'm going to call 3 names, and we would appreciate it if you would come down and be ready to speak. Our first speaker is Dave Hatcher, to be followed by Cheryl Lynn Harley, to be followed by Marahan El Hadi. Mr. Hatcher?
I begin by asking that the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. I'm Dave Hatcher. I'm a Providence District resident for 32 years. My kids matriculated through Timber Lane, Luther Jackson, and Falls Church High. Opted out of FLE every year for their entire school education from Timber Lane through Falls Church High. Tonight, some of us are asking, are there FCPS educators writ large who have agendas to harass or intimidate their peers who may sense a hostile working environment because of science, religion, or values? Harassment such as pushing the degrading FLE curriculum regardless of opposition, and the race to enact transgender practices in bathrooms and locker rooms at the expense of, I don't know, well over 99% of the kids in the schools. Harassment from recommended reading lists, including language that cannot even be spoken aloud in places like this. Or introducing unnatural sex acts at ever younger ages in schools. Are you kidding me? Or the frantic rush to embrace the outrageous Policy 1450, a policy searching for a problem where none exists. Of the 186,000 student population, virtually zero formal complaints of any discrimination over the last few years, virtually zero. How about those parents sitting here, or grandparents perhaps, with teenage or even younger girls in schools? Need I mention the horrific rape case a week ago right across the river at Rockville High School. An innocent 14-year-old girl went to school. Now she was brutalized, traumatized, and tormented for the rest of her life. Girl may just as easily have been my daughter several years ago here at Luther Jackson, or others today, like you, Ms. Chu. Alleged rapists were not transgender students, but just as easily could have been. And that is what many of us parents, former parents and current parents, are scared of, understandably. Will we now need bathroom guards all hours during the school days? The American College of Pediatricians said, conditioning children into believing that a lifetime of chemical and surgical impersonation of the opposite sex is normal and healthful is child abuse. Child abuse. What reasonable person could consign young children to this fate, knowing that after puberty, as many as 88% of girls and 98% of boys will eventually accept reality and achieve a state of mental and physical health? They will accept reality. Wow. Many of us will continue to challenge board members whose arrogant leadership is an affront to the dignity and development of healthy young minds and bodies. We're seeking a change of hearts, if not changes to the board in future elections. Thanks.
Thank you. Sherilyn Hartley Harley, to be followed by Marahan El-Hadi and then Mary Mack.
Good evening. My name is Sherilyn Harley Laban, and I'm a resident of Fairfax County. I'm speaking tonight about the Human Resource Committee bylaws. I support the committee and its mission to provide teachers with the support and tools to fulfill their duties as teachers in our school district. And as such, we should be committed by providing teachers additional resources where necessary. And as an example of where additional resources may be needed is in the area of school safety. I'm concerned about the ability of our fine teachers to ensure the safety of all children in our schools. In light of the horrific incident in Montgomery County, I think it's the responsibility of this board and the Fairfax County Public Schools to ensure the safety of our children while they are in your care. The school board should be transparent in the policies regarding international students in our school district and provide that information to parents. As we know, residents of Fairfax County are required to provide extensive documentation before enrolling a child in Fairfax County schools, including submitting information regarding whether their child has been involved in any criminal violation. Parents should expect that all students enrolled in Fairfax County schools complete the same paperwork so that we can all be assured that our children are not seated next to criminals in class. And we should ensure that appropriate background checks are performed when necessary. Ensuring the safety of all children should be the most important objective for the school board and the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Marahan El-Hadi to be followed by Mary Mack to be followed by John Kochka. Marahan El-Hadi? All right, do we have Mary Mack here?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board on the topic of human resource management. FCPS human resources are, first and foremost, Americans, or people who have come to live under the protective wing of the American Constitution. From its beginning, America has been a safe haven for religious conscience, protected by our First Amendment. But our public education system has turned the First Amendment, intended to shield religious freedom from the strong arm of government, into a bulldozer to destroy it. At first, only expressions of religion, like prayer, were cast out. But now, even the shadow of God must go. In Genesis 1:27, the Bible says, God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. In Matthew 19:4, Christ echoes this, saying, haven't you read that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female? Gender fluidity is the final battle in this war on God. FCPS is fighting on the front lines, attempting to force coercion of pronouns, forcing females to undress in front of males, and suspending anyone who does not subscribe to the idea that boys can be girls and vice versa. For Christians, biological sex is not only physical, it's also spiritual. It's an acknowledgement of who God created us to be. The Bible teaches that suffering entered the world as a result of sin, and that only Jesus Christ can restore us to the person God meant us to be. This is our religious conviction, and it's not FCPS's or the government's role to interpret the Bible. When we teach our children to act with their bodies as if biology does not matter and that we can be the sex that we prefer, we teach them to deny the existence of God. And even more, to enlist them and ourselves as soldiers in the war to destroy him. FCPS board members, you have a duty to represent your constituents, 40% of whom are Christians. Respect the religious convictions of personnel, students, and parents, and stop trying to force them to fight your war on God.
John Kochka to be followed by Joe Neuber to be followed by Janet Jareska.
The 5 human relations standards in the Fairfax County Public Schools are diversity, inclusion, communication, modeling, and partnering. Fairfax County used these standards to address the achievement gap. In 2012, Fairfax County's HRAC committee determined that parental involvement and communication were paramount to shrink the academic achievement gap. The academic achievement gap is the difference between the academic achievement of white and Asian students relative to African American and Latino students. Let's talk about parental involvement and communication. How many illegal alien parents in Fairfax County can read to their illegal alien children in English? How many illegal alien children and unaccompanied minors are there in Fairfax County Public Schools? Anyone? Anyone? How many illegal alien students receive ESL services in Fairfax County? What is the annual cost per pupil to educate someone in an ESL? What is the annual cost per pupil of education for a U.S.-born citizen who is not receiving ESL education or a special needs child? How do you promote parental involvement for an unaccompanied minor? How many 19 and 20-year-old male students are there in Fairfax County Public Schools? How many of the 19 and 20-year-old students are illegal aliens? How many of the 19 and 20-year-olds with gang affiliations are there in Jeb Stuart and Herndon High School? Are MS-13 members at Jeb Stuart High School still trying to recruit Glasgow Middle School kids when they walk from Glasgow back to their homes in Culmore? The Solons of sodomy who voted for Policy 1450 lied to the public when they stated that Jeff Poyer's regulations were on hold after July of 2016. A mother testified 2 weeks ago. She pulled her daughter out of a public school because the school was allowing a little boy who thought he was a little girl to use the girls' restroom. The mother was fearful for her daughter's safety and peace of mind at school and now homeschools her. This is exactly what Jeff Poyer's regulations codified, and now schools all over Fairfax County are allowing co-ed bathrooms because these schools believe doing otherwise would be a violation of Policy 1450. Everyone knows when a man or a boy is in the girls' bathroom, there's something wrong. The Solons of sodomy recklessly endangered your children. On June 30th, 2016, a trespass occurred in this very school when Roxanne Edwards, a 250-pound, 50-year-old cross-dressing male, was in the ladies' restroom passing out brochures. The woman encountered Mr. Edwards and reported the trespass to the Fairfax County School resource officers. The resource officers did nothing. Thank you.
I would ask that we not start naming individual citizens in our comments. It's not appropriate for this forum. Joe Newber.
Good evening. I'm speaking on the no change memo as it relates to policy 4410, which establishes policies regarding the general duties of teachers and student behavior, and which also notes, and I quote, class size is recognized as a factor in contributing to a desirable school learning environment. We all agree on the importance of retaining quality teachers in our schools. And we know, and I've heard from you many times, that we have a huge concern that we are not retaining and attracting our quality seasoned teachers. As one example, Arlington County offers similar compensation to FCPS with higher salaries and less generous pension benefits, yet maintains smaller average class sizes. Class size counts also collects anecdotes from many teachers in FCPS, and we've learned over the years, many of our seasoned teachers are leaving our public schools to go to private schools, which actually have not only lower salaries, but lower class sizes. So what are we learning from this? What can we take away from this? Well, larger class sizes create problems. They burn out our valuable teachers and increase teacher attrition. According to a national survey, large classes are one of the top 3 reasons teachers leave the profession. We know from the FCPS 2008 and 2014 teacher surveys that class size is a huge concern and a major reason they are leaving the profession. Larger classes result in greater difficulty with classroom management, with more focus on discipline and less time on differentiated instruction. Larger classes also result in less teacher feedback on assignments, greater safety hazards, especially in our chemistry labs, and fewer critical learning activities. I mean, let's face it, 30+ kids in a class is just way too many kids to have an effective oral presentation or quality project-based learning projects that should go on, ideally. Larger classes can also lead to increased administrative expenses. At the February 23 work session, we learned FCPS teacher attrition after 5 years is about 40%, comparable to national averages, and it's growing. We are constantly rehiring and retraining teachers. We are losing our valuable teachers, and it is costly and timely. I'd like to know how much we are spending now on hiring and retraining in the professional development courses required to retrain our teachers with our growing attrition rate. We have unfilled teacher vacancies still this year, as larger classes make it harder to attract and retain good teachers, not to mention its negative effect on student learning. So why, I ask you, is FCPS considering again raising core class sizes by 1 student per core academic class, not only in elementary but in middle and high schools also? I urge you, on behalf of Class Size Counts, not to balance the FY18 budget on the backs of our students and teachers by increasing core class sizes. Thank you.
Thank you. Janet Shuresko. To be followed by Edward Hara, to be followed by Doug Fung, and then Meg Kilgannon.
Hello. My comments tonight relate to the no change agenda dealing with teacher contracts. I'm a teacher at the transitional ESOL High School, but I'm speaking tonight as a citizen and resident of Fairfax County, and the opinions I express are my own. Watching the February 13th meeting, board members seemed surprised by the proposal to realign staffing of transitional ESOL High School. Realignment would actually mean replacing contracted teachers with hourly moonlighters. We think this would be a grave mistake because our population needs a core group of dedicated teachers qualified to address their unique academic, sociocultural, and language learning needs. The transitional program is not new. It was begun in 1991 under Dr. Nancy Sprague and has had the support of every superintendent since. Our mission is to educate students 18 and older who cannot yet access the general ed curriculum without expert support. Our students are WIDA level 1 and 2, that is beginning English learners. Many come to us from daytime ESOL programs after their 18th birthday. Most arrive with limited and interrupted formal education. Many are fleeing conflict zones and have experienced trauma, fear, and poverty. But they are also the most eager of learners. Hoping to achieve the American dream, they get up before dawn to work a full-time job or several part-time jobs and still manage to come to school and learn until 10 at night, night after night. These people are our neighbors, they're employees of Fairfax County businesses, and they're parents of future FCPS students. Life will be better for all of us if they are given the opportunity to gain the academic skills necessary for full participation in our society. Teaching this population requires unique skill set and dedication, which transitional teachers have developed over the 25-year history of the program. So I urge you to maintain continuity for our students with the teachers they have come to know and trust and count on, and to maintain the institutional memory of the program developed over many years of experience with teachers with international experience, with elementary ed experience, with a vast variety of skill sets. It would be a rare professional who would be able, much as we would love to stay on as an hourly part-timer with no benefits. And we would hate to have our students lose the expertise we have. Our students need and deserve teachers who can make their education their primary professional responsibility rather than a sideline after another full-time job. Would any of us want any less for our children? We can easily find other teaching jobs, but our students cannot easily find another school. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Edward Hara, to be followed by Doug Fung, to be followed by Meg Kilgannon.
Honorable School Board members, friends, and guests, I'm here tonight to address the Human Resource Advisory Committee bylaws and how they affect those who are ruled by those bylaws, our underappreciated teachers. It is my understanding that there is an unspoken opposition in these bylaws to teachers who wish to teach family life education, sex education courses within the context of traditional sexual morality, including the threat of censure and firing. By such threats, teachers are being forced to teach against their conscience in a contradiction to demonstrated scientific, medical, health, and safety data, which shows that sexual behavior outside of the traditional male-female marriage is harmful and unsafe for our children. The Fairfax County FLE sex ed curriculum and its programs like it have resulted in an explosion of harmful and deadly STDs, depression, low self-esteem, suicides, and a myriad of individual and collective public health and behavioral problems, while teen sexual activity remains a significant concern. I am here to add my voice to the disenfranchised teachers because I am not an abstract concept. I am a survivor of the so-called sexual revolution of the 1960s, and some of the ideas being put forth in the FLE curriculum for the education of our children have had a long-lasting and harmful effect upon my life personally. It is one thing to talk about concepts and imagine how they might work, but concepts which have a long track record of failure and hurting people should not receive an enthusiastic welcome. In the 1960s, millions of us as young people were brainwashed into believing many of the same ideas that are being proposed in the current FLE curriculum, that our sexual activity should be expressed without limit, that we should be free to experiment with ourselves and others as pleases us, and that there's no such thing as a normal moral standard. This is known as anything goes. I do not use the word survivor lightly. In the last 60 years, STDs, broken families, fatherless children, drug and alcohol abuse, and suicides, all stemming from the sexual revolution, have harmed and even killed millions in America. It is a miracle I was not among those who died. Modesty and the lack of time prevent me from sharing you the many ways I hurt myself and others in my pursuit of pleasure, and the sorrow even now I have over many young girls I treated as no more than objects to that end. Being sexualized at an early age, as is being done in the Fairfax County public schools, I developed an addiction to pornography, which any competent psychologist will tell you creates a severe impediment in the ability to have meaningful intimacy. In addition, pornography and the sex industry are the true misogynists, exploiting women as objects, desensitizing them, and dehumanizing people, and reducing sex to a gratuitous act of selfishness and emptiness. Finally, in concern for the welfare of our young people, I'm here tonight as someone who has partaken of the rotten fruit of the sexual freedom and has been poisoned by it. Children deserve better. I respectfully urge the school board, in reference to the HRAC committee bylaws, to write into those bylaws clear protections of conscience for teachers who realize the dangers inherent in teaching unrestrained sexuality to our children and who in good conscience cannot do so. By rewriting the FLE curriculum to reflect traditional moral values that promote healthy family life and benefits of self-control, and not allowing the harassment or firing of teachers who teach such values, you have the power to protect our children from harm. It is vital that our children understand sexuality and its proper use, for like any powerful tool, misuse of it will create damage. I thank you very much for your time allowing me to speak tonight.
Doug Fung.
Good evening. I stand before you today to make a plea that you please consider Ultimate Frisbee in your list of approved sports. In 2013, the Ultimate community witnessed precedents as the county deviated from VHSL guidelines, and now 4 years later, your community asks that you consider Ultimate too. We live in a constantly changing community, and as the popularity of new sports arise, Fairfax County has always risen to include the needs of its students. Ultimate Frisbee fills a niche role in sports, and most importantly, targets students that most likely have never played a sport before. It's a non-contact sport, and each student learns accountability and integrity with each play and call on the field. Philosophically, Ultimate relies on a spirit of sportsmanship that places the responsibility of fair play on the player. Highly competitive play is encouraged, but never at the expense of mutual respect amongst competitors or the basic joy of play. There is no referee in Ultimate for the kids to turn to. Fairfax County's 2015-2016 health study demonstrated a decline in physical activity with each progressive grade. Yet in Arlington, where Ultimate was approved as a club sport last year, HB Woodlawn had 170 students out of 840 students participate. and there was an even distribution between all their students. Parents have asked us to host middle school camps for even younger students, and now we've started adding girls programs. We're in our second week of the 2017 high school season, and the Ultimate Frisbee scene is a thriving community. The students have put together an online petition with 700 signatures, and I've passed some of those out to some of you today. I did not bring enough for everyone. We are with 16 teams in the league. Several schools have multiple teams, noticeably Chantilly, TJ, and Woodson. Last year, Woodson High School placed 4th at USAU States, even without a proper program backing them up. However, we're doing our best to reserve practice space for these students through the Park Authority and Neighborhood and Community Services. Yet sometimes these fields are too far away for the freshmen and sophomores without a means of transportation to get to. We also compete with private schools and programs for these fields, and so some of these schools don't actually get practice space. The students understand that they currently are interest groups, and they're not supposed to practice as a school group, but they always find a way to do something that they like. Through the power of the school board, I ask that you consider Ultimate Frisbee as a financially independent fall or spring club sport so that these young and passionate students can practice at and play for their schools in a safe environment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Meg Colgannon.
Good evening. Thank you for the chance to speak with you this evening. I would like to thank School Board at-Large member Ms. Jeanette Huff for trying to get the work session on FLE earlier tonight, for bringing that forward. Parents have been coming here time after time after time after time, parent after parent after grandparent after just concerned citizen, to say that we have some really grave concerns about the family life education curriculum. And it was really gratifying tonight to see that some people are taking that concern seriously. And I'll just recap the vote for the viewers at home, because sometimes it takes a long time for those work session audio tapes to come out. Ms. Huff, Mr. Wilson, Ms. Schultz, Ms. McLaughlin voted to have a full work session immediately on the FLE. And Mr. McIlvain, Ms. Evans, Mr. Moon, Ms. Corbett Sanders, Ms. Strauss, Ms. Dernick Koufax, and Ms. Palchik voted to have the FLECAC committee review the FLE curriculum. I find that interesting because the FLECAC committee should have already reviewed the curriculum. I mean, isn't that their job? That's what you appoint them to do, to review the curriculum. But having sat in on a few of the meetings myself, I have learned that actually I don't think anyone on the FLECAC committee has read the curriculum from cover to cover, even one grade level of the curricular material. They're presented with a concept. For example, at one of the meetings I attended, they were talking about the need to include education for girls about endometriosis in 10th grade. Good idea. So they talked about that as a concept. The FLECAC committee voted to do that. And then at the next meeting, I asked, would there be a chance for us to see the revised curriculum? And I was told that, no, that's not the role of the committee. We don't see the final curriculum as part of the committee. I'm not on, I'm just an interested citizen. The staff writes the curriculum, and then the schools teach the curriculum. So it really seems to me as a citizen that this board has a don't ask, don't tell policy about FLE. You don't want to be told anything about it. You don't want to ask any questions about it. And I don't understand why, because it's the relationship between men and women that is so powerful that it can bring forth a human life is something that deserves to be taught, considered with the utmost respect and care. And it's one of the most important things any human being can learn about in their lifetime. So I thank you again for at least making a start in reviewing this process. And I would encourage each of you to just take a grade level and read the lessons. It's on Blackboard, right under the curriculum tab there. And we appreciate that too. You've made it a lot easier for parents to get to. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, we do have one video testimony from student Adelso Noriega on the No Change Memo Policy 4129. It's still, we still don't have the audio. It's not going to work. All right. Perhaps we can you continue to work on it and see if we can, well, okay. Well, let's continue on, and if it looks like we're able to get the audio back on that testimony, Madam Clerk, would you let me know, and then we can perhaps break in and come back to this topic, because we certainly do want to hear from our students when they take the time to submit videos. All right, we will turn then to student representative matters, and I call on Ms. Chu.
Thank you. On March 11th, I had the pleasure of attending the Real Food for Kids Culinary Challenge and Wellness Expo, at which I saw some other school board members, and it was a wonderful turnout. They attracted 13 teams from 10 schools. Lake Braddock Secondary School actually took home the 5-star award, meaning that their lunch, which is designed to meet school food guidelines with regards to nutrition and cost, is going to be considered for the school menu for next year. So I'm excited to see that this school's creation might be on our lunch menu for next year. In addition, Franklin Middle School won the Gold Star Award. Chantilly Academy took home the Silver Star Award. Glasgow Middle School earned the People's Choice recognition. Sandburg Middle School was the favorite of our food and nutrition service professionals. Irving Middle School took home the Celebrity Choice, and West Potomac took home the Real Food for Kids Choice. So a lot of our schools received wonderful awards. In addition, we'd just like to congratulate all the 325 attendees to the event. A lot of our students were able to meet some of our food and nutrition services professionals, and they're excited to bring back the event next year. In addition, on Wednesday, April 5th, they will be continuing the initiative with a Healthy School Advocacy Training. They would like to encourage parents, educators, staff members, and other school board members, and engage school community members to participate in elevating the culture of health in our schools. In addition, coming soon on April 3rd at Hayfield Elementary Schools, I would just like to encourage my fellow school board members to come to the student representative election. I hear there's a very impressive lineup of candidates this year, and a lot of the students will love to see the school board members come out and watch them as they deliver speeches on their platforms and answer questions from our students. So those are the past and upcoming events. In addition, as per a request from the last meeting, a lot of the Student Advisory Council's suggestions have been taken directly to the professionals who come to the meetings requesting those suggestions. So to kind of compile all of it together in a compounded document, I will have that ready for all of you soon, the suggestions from our students throughout the school year. So instead of just having those go straight to our food nutrition services or towards the Fairfax County Police Department, that can be made ready available. I'm going to try to have that up on our website and available to all of you soon. So that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Ms. Chu. Item 4.01, confirmation of action taken in closed meeting. This is the portion of the meeting where the board will confirm any action regarding issues that were discussed in the closed meeting. These issues may include action taken regarding student disciplinary matters. Board members have discussed each individual case, and at this time we'll make a motion to confirm recommended action, and I call on Mrs. Strauss for a motion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move to deny the school reassignment appeal of a student who possessed illegal drugs and drug paraphernalia at school, and to confirm the disciplinary decision of the division superintendent.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mrs. Corbett Sanders. All those in favor, raise your hand. Palchik, Huff, Schultz, Corbett Sanders, Strauss, Evans, Moon, McLaughlin, Dearnett Koufax, McElveen. All those opposed, all those abstaining, Hines, and that motion passes with Mr. Wilson away from the table. We turn to 4.02, Human Resources Advisory Committee bylaws, and I call on Ms. Hines for the motion.
Thank you. The motion is, I move that the school board approve the HRAC Human Resources Advisory Committee bylaws as detailed in the agenda item.
Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. McElveen. Ms. Hines, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. For those who have not been following this, the school board had a long-standing citizen advisory committee called Human Relations Advisory Committee. Last summer, the school board decided that that advisory committee was was doing work that other advisory committees were also doing. And so we decided that in order to streamline some of our work, we would close that committee, and we did, and we thank those wonderful members of that advisory committee for their work. And we didn't actually streamline very much, though, because what we did then was to replace the Human Relations Advisory Committee with the Human Resources Advisory Committee. And this is a new idea for the school board, to have a citizen advisory committee to help advise the school board on human relations matters. So what we have tonight, working with Dr. Ramey, who is our head of HR, thank you, Dr. Ramey, for your help. We have put together new bylaws for the new committee. And that's what we are hoping to pass tonight. I understand there was a last-minute change made today, so I believe that was posted, and so that the current posting on board docs is up to date.
Yeah, and if I could just mention that these were a couple of word changes just to make it consistent. Mr. Moon caught a couple of things. It was posted to say that add the word nominate in there to make it consistent, and to change one appoint to nominate. Just so it was technical.
Thank you, Mr. Moon, for catching those vocabulary changes.
Mr. McElveen.
I would like to thank Ms. Hines for picking up the baton on this one and moving it forward. Also, again, thank you, Dr. Ramey, and to Kevin Sills for all the work they've put into this. I know this is a committee that's very valued by the community, and so it'll be good to see it put together in its new form. So thanks again.
I'm not seeing any. Mrs. Schultz.
So, in light of some of the testimony that was here today, and with apologies because we've had a pretty full board calendar recently, I wanted to ask Dr. Lockard, and I think potentially it's specific to policy 4410.6. On page 2, there's an F has educator protections, and section 6, so I guess it would be 4F would be educator protections, 5 would be disciplinary action, and 6 would be academic freedom. How are teacher conscientious objections handled? This is a conversation I'd actually had with our previous superintendent, and there seemed to be sort of a lay of the land policy, but how does this work into the human relations bylaws? How does this work into this policy? Is there a way that the bylaws somehow cover that? Is that allowed under either the academic freedom portion of this policy or under the 4F educator protections?
Thank you. I was still trying to actually find the policy that you were.
Well, I will say that I'm not sure what changed on board docs, but things are opening weird. They're opening with a URL. I don't know if that's new. So on our,
you're not able to open the. Are you referring to what was posted, or are you referring to a different policy?
No, it's what's posted.
Oh, okay. So
it's
perhaps you can catch us up where we are.
It's 4410.
Okay.
And for some reason, several of these have a URL, so you have to open them in not Google, because you can't open the PDF in there. I know. It's. Well, I do see that I see what you're saying, that it falls later under, okay, so this is going to come, well, all right, so it does fall later under our, it's under the consent agenda, but it's under the consent agenda, but the HRAC bylaws reference these policies, so I'm assuming that they tie together.
So, I'm sorry, Michelle, could you ask me your question one more time?
So So fundamentally, the question that was brought up tonight, is there some policy that's either provided under the bylaws that we're passing tonight or under the underlying policies that are under our consent agenda that allow for conscientious objection? So if there is a material that fundamentally there is a reasonable and prudent, religious objection to a teacher that's been presented new material that's been developed, or cultural or otherwise, what happens to that teacher? I mean, is it, tough nuts, you got to teach whatever we give you? It seems like we provide academic freedom one way to teach the course as they see fit, but what if they don't see fit? It's sort of the obverse.
Right. I might look to either John or Chase to help a little bit. I'd have to research that just a little bit. I think that, and I'd want to go back and review the policy. I think that it just depends on what it is, and sort of we'd have to look at, I guess, almost case by case. What is the objection, and where does it fall? I heard that in some of the commentary tonight, but I would ask for either a little bit of an additional input there or a little bit more time to give you a more researched
Okay,
answer.
so I guess, I don't know if that falls under a next step, but I think that's something that is reasonably brought up because this is new. We're moving a former committee of the board to sort of a little bit of a new role, a more of an expanded role in employee relations, human relations, and Dr. Ramey, maybe this is something, I'm not exactly sure where this falls. Does this fall under instructional development, professional learning, HR? And this question has come up sort of tangentially before, but now that we're passing bylaws with underlying policies that say specifically and talk specifically about academic freedom and educator protections, I'm wondering what encompasses exactly educator protection and what encompasses actually academic freedom with regard to teaching material within FCPS.
So
is that
Mrs.
something
Schultz, does this
is that-
actually relate to the HRAC bylaws?
The HR policies that are on our consent agenda fall under the concept of the HRAC policies the HRAC bylaws that we're passing. And so and it was brought up specifically tonight that people were addressing, are you not codifying in your bylaws educator freedom or academic freedom and educator protections? And we're about to pass on our consent agenda the very policies on no change that 8 people brought up tonight. So I think it's a reasonable question to say we're getting ready to establish a new set of bylaws for a new committee, and there's a nexus that the bylaws are, of course, having to do with HR policies that are underlying that we're about to, in 2 agenda items, getting ready to pass on consent.
Madam Chair. All right. We do still have it on consent. No one asked for that to be taken off consent. So if you have a question, it sounds like Dr. Lockhart is asking to get back in touch with you after he's had an opportunity to research that. And I do have other people who'd like to speak. Did you have other questions or comments?
Well, I'm just wondering what the next step is from here.
Well, it sounds like Dr. Lockhart is going to get back in touch with you on your specific question about the policy that is coming up on consent.
Okay, well, then I'm probably signaling that I may ask, I know we have a practice of pulling consent agenda items before we start, but I may ask to delay to a time specific until we can get some of these answers.
All right, I have Ms. Corbett-Sanders.
I was just going to try to clarify things a little bit. The HRAC is actually an advisory committee which we will give charges to. And so the bylaws really don't address the policies unless the HRAC will not address a policy unless we charge the HRAC with doing a review of the policy, similar to what we charged the FLE advisory committee earlier to do a deep dive of looking at the FLE curriculum We are now, if you wanted, you probably could ask for that to be a charge. But the other piece, and maybe I am under a misunderstanding on teachers teaching FLE, but it was my understanding that teachers actually volunteered to teach FLE and that they did not, they were not required to teach it, that there's usually somebody who takes lead at each grade level. So that might address some of the concerns that were expressed here tonight, because if somebody is volunteering, then they would know what they were volunteering for.
That is the typical practice, yes.
Mrs. Strauss?
Yes, I was going to ask the same question. In other words, a teacher, they select as to which curriculum or subject matter they are going to teach. No one is forced to teach FLE if that is not a subject matter that they wish to teach. So that is not a forced situation. Correct. Thank you.
Okay, and I will just make a short comment too. I do want to point out that even though the initials are the same as our old HRAC, this is a new committee with a different purpose. That was the Human Relations Advisory Committee, and it took up all kinds of wonderful, important issues on bullying and on student mental health and many important issues that we felt some other committees might be willing and able to take on. We've now created this new committee, which is Human Resources Advisory Committee, that has to do with our our premier workforce. And so I did just want to clarify, I think Ms. Hines said it, but I wanted to reiterate, this really is a whole different committee with a whole different purpose, even though it has been a little bit confusing just because of this having the same initials. So with that, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Hines, Palchik, Huff, Corbett Sanders, Strauss, Evans, Moon, McLaughlin, Wilson, Derenak Kofax, and McElveen. All those opposed, all those abstaining, Schultz, and that motion passes. We now turn to, I'm told that the video will now run, Madam Clerk. All right, if we could take a little byway here, take a detour and see that video. Thank you. Should we try to do it after our next agenda item, or? All right, well, I'm sure it will be well worth the wait. We are anxiously looking forward to this student video. So we now turn to 4.03, FY 2017 third quarter budget review, and I call on Ms. Derenak Kofax for the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. I move that the school board approve revenue and expenditure adjustments as reflected in the FY 2017 third quarter budget review and is detailed in the agenda item.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Moon. Ms. Derenak Kofax, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just briefly, our board had a presentation here a few weeks ago, as well as an extensive work session on what was reflected in the third quarter budget, what was available to us. And so in summary, we had a savings where we were able to add $6.5 million to the 2018 beginning balance, and there's many details online, as well as conversations for the public, conversations from the work session. So I encourage my colleagues to support this motion.
Mr. Moon?
Just to briefly add to that is that I'm glad that with the colleagues' support that we are not spending away any part of the $6.5 million as we are faced with rather large budget gap.
Would any other board member like to speak on this motion? Oh, Ms. Corbett Sanders?
I would just like to thank staff for making the recommendation and tightening belts so that we actually have some money that we can apply to next year's budget. I think that this is an incredibly responsible action, and we appreciate it.
All right, with that, those supporting this motion, please raise your hand. And that vote is unanimous. The motion passes. Should we try the video? That was quick. All right, then I guess if you would send it to board members, and if we could get the, I was able to listen to it earlier today, so I think, if we could, yeah, it does, it's just there's some glitch in our system here. Perhaps we could show it at our next board meeting. So he would get the public forum that he's asked for. I've been asked to we're going to the consent agenda, and I have been asked to take 5.02 off the consent agenda. So without objection, I'm going to take 5.02 off of the consent agenda. But before we go to that, the rest of the consent agenda, this are adopted rules of parliamentary procedure. Robert's rules provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Many items listed have gone through board review, and documentation has been provided to all board members and the public in advance. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member prior to the meeting. 5.01, confirm the separations for the period beginning February 1st, 2017 and ending February 28th, 2017. 5.03, appoint individuals to serve on committees as detailed in the agenda item. If there's no objection to approving the consent agenda as read, then the consent agenda is approved. We'll now turn back to agenda item 5.02, adopt the policies on the no change memo as detailed in the agenda item. Do I have a motion to approve 5.02? Moved by Mrs. Hines and seconded by Mrs. Strauss. Ms. Hines, would you like to speak to your motion?
Not right now, thank you.
All right. Mrs. Strauss, would you like to speak to your second?
I believe we have a colleague who wants to speak to one of these policies.
So anyone want to speak to 5.02? Mrs. Schultz.
So just a brief follow-up. One of my colleagues had asked the question about whether or not if teachers have the ability to teach FLE completely at their will, at volunteering. And I'm wondering if that includes physical education teachers, particularly in middle school and the beginning of high school. I mean, so basically what I just want to hear is that anyone who's teaching FLE, it is at their discretion, not at our behest. And I'm not entirely sure, that typical is the same thing as it's their choice. I mean, if it's their choice, then I think that this is relatively moot, but it's just not what I heard tonight, and I want to make sure the board is responsive.
Again, I will look into that and give you an answer. When I say typically, I'm thinking about anything. When teachers take employment with us to teach chemistry, it's reasonably expected that they're going to teach our chemistry curriculum, right? And so there could be unique circumstances. That's why I was kind of like, well, there could be a unique circumstance somewhere that I just kind of need to think about it a little bit, look at our policies and consult. But as far as your FLE question, typically it is folks who have agreed to teach that, whether it's through the health course in our secondary schools, perhaps a phys ed teacher. I need to double check to make sure I'm giving you accurate information. So I just need a little more time to look at that.
And I'm certainly going to acknowledge, Dr. Lockhart, that to some degree this is unexpected. I'll acknowledge that I'm putting staff on the spot, asking for an answer, and I don't fundamentally have a problem passing these policies, but I'm just wondering if we were to derive, like, if there is a mechanism under this academic freedom and educator protection, is there a way to later, if we pass on because it's not consent anymore, but if we pass with unanimity or something close there too, these policies tonight, would there be a mechanism later for us to revisit, add, or update a policy once you've had an opportunity to look at this and maybe the board discusses it, or you can just maybe advise us in a superintendent's memo, what you know about this issue? Okay.
Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to follow on a little bit, I want to make sure I understood, because I had to step away from the dais for a moment, that at the current practice within the division is for someone, a teacher who might otherwise teach the FLE curriculum, if they had an issue with conscience, they could effectively opt out of teaching portions of the curriculum?
No, that's not what we said. What I had said to the initial question was I need to do a little bit more fact-finding to make sure I'm giving you the most accurate information. But my understanding is our folks, again, if they're contracted to teach a certain subject area, it's expected that you would teach the curriculum that we provide for that subject area. We do typically seek out folks who are interested in teaching the FLE portion, particularly at the elementary level. But again, I want to have the benefit of
I'm relieved to hear that, actually, because I think it's a very dangerous precedent to allow teachers to dictate what they're going to teach. They are employees, after all. Now, having said that, I recognize that this is a very sensitive area, and one that, potentially will be discussed in the legal system at some point. But it underscores why it's important for us as a board to dig into the issues of how has the FLE curriculum evolved in Fairfax County Public Schools vis-a-vis the state educational requirements, because based on the testimony tonight that we heard, there are concerns within the community and within the teaching community about the curriculum. So I would urge you to get back to us so that we can understand whether or not there is a real concern for us to think about as a board for policy purposes.
Ms. Hines?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Seeing no other lights, I will call for the vote on the motion, which is to adopt the policies on the no change memo as detailed in the agenda item. All those in favor, raise your hand. And that vote is unanimous, with Ms. McLaughlin away from the table. Item 6, new business. The following is a new business agenda item. There will not be a vote tonight on this item, but action is scheduled at a future meeting. 6.01, appoint committee members to the Mathematics Basal Instructional Materials Adoption Committee is detailed in the agenda item. And we now turn to superintendent matters, and I call on Dr. Lockhart. That has come earlier in the evening than it usually does,
Yes.
Dr. Lockhart. So we have taken you unawares.
Superintendent matters
I
already?
realize that's completely unfair to get done by 8:40. So,
Well, I have some comments to make this evening. So I had the wonderful privilege to join our students and parents and community and lots of sponsors at the 62nd Annual Fairfax County Regional Science and Engineering Fair, which was held over the weekend at Robinson Secondary School. We had 11 Fairfax County Public School students earn the Grand Prize Award. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of these folks and the impressive work that they did. And I'm so glad that the students were there, because as I was looking at their projects, I really needed their help in helping me understand some of these concepts, because it's just incredible the work that our students are doing. I think we're going to hear from a lot of these students in the future with probably pretty impressive discoveries and cures and inventions and all kinds of things. So Nicholas Lynn of Westfield High School in the animal sciences, his topic was analyzing the use of intralipid for treatment of beta blocker overdose. Zach, bless you. Pratik Naidu of Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in computational biology and bioinformatics. The DNA Loop R, a novel tool to identify 3D DNA interactions in cancer. Alexander Schmid and Rashib Jain of Marshall High School in the category of energy and chemical, the future of potable water, air cathode microbiome desalination cells. Brendan Duffy of Lake Braddock Secondary School in the category of energy and physical, the Mezzanine, a proof of concept. William Mackinnon of West Potomac High School in the category of engineering and mechanics, real-time 3D printing error correction and detection. Shannon Prindle of Oakton High School in translational medical science was improving photodynamic therapy through hypoxia and bioluminescence, which again, it was just so impressive to see the range of projects, the high level of discussion, the excitement. In fact, this evening I was talking with one of our national board certified teachers from Westfield High School, and we were talking over in the cafeteria before the school board meeting a little bit about the work that she does. And she was just so proud of the work that she's done in garnering more interest in the area of science. She's a science teacher there, and I saw her at the science fair. She's very proud of the students, and we called a few Westfield students. I named one right at the beginning here as a grand prize winner. All right, 2 of our schools won top prizes in the WTOP Click for Kids contest. Penny Gross, principal of Jeb Stuart High School, she was tracking the growing number of clicks received through the radio station's website, and they won the top prize of $15,000. Yeah. Penny said the money is going to go towards the AVID program, and that's an elective class that helps students get on track for college. Also, Principal Tanya Wassenberg of Laurel Ridge said they were very thrilled at their second place win that netted them $10,000 in the Click for Kids contest. And that funding is going to go towards a playground that's accessible to their students with disabilities. So we want to thank, of course, those schools and those school communities for their efforts there, but certainly WTOP for their support of our schools and our families, students and staff that all were busy clicking away to help those 2 schools. So thank you.
Excellent. And we now go to board committee reports. And I call on Mr. McElveen for an update on the Public Engagement Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So at our last meeting, we discussed the board communication needs that had been previously discussed by the committee and submitted to the committee from various board members, one of which was the use of Keep in Touch and school board newsletters. We, in looking through the governance manual, saw that there are major issues with the section on school board communications, so we are going to be looking at that further at our next meeting. And then one update for the board on the Education Summit, the on-again, off-again, on-again Education Summit. The date is now scheduled for October 14th. Saturday, and we are still in the process of determining a location. So we'll bring that back to the board next month.
And then Ms. McLaughlin had a question for you, Mr. McElveen.
Thank you. I was wondering if PEC has a status update on where we are with staff efforts to address the numerous concerns that have been raised by the community and board members on the website.
Ms. McLaughlin, thanks so much for bringing that or asking that question. In discussion with the chair and in hearing from the community, that does remain a area of significant concern. I still continue to get emails about that issue. It's something based on our new processes I will have to bring to a forum, and then we will bring it back to PAC to deal with.
Mr. McElveen, I really appreciate you giving me the update as you understand it. I will say, Chairman Evans, I don't understand the direction that Mr. McElveen's being given. The board was really clear in the fall that as soon as the new website was launched, we heard from the stakeholders in our districts. And just last night at my budget town hall, almost unanimously, the room expressed concern still that it's difficult to navigate. The search engine doesn't work. People can't find things on it. And I was under the understanding that the beauty of having the School Board Advisory Committee for Public Engagement is so we can address these very things that affect our county and our families. And so I thought that Mr. McElveen had the blessings of the board to work with PEC on this, and then obviously it's PEC to help guide staff. But what I understood was that obviously you can't fix it overnight, but to be honest, this is a website that the board brought forward and said the old website didn't have a functional search engine. And the next thing we know, they completely deconstruct the website, and now we have bigger problems instead of fewer problems. So I don't want this to be a forum, and I would like some clarity since you're the chair, and maybe you have to go back to chairmans on this, but it's not fair to ask Mr. McElveen or the PEC to go to a forum. We just need to understand how come it's now almost the end of March, and we really don't have any understanding of what improvements have been made to make the website more user-friendly. And it's not a few one-offs. It's a pretty strong reaction in the community about it.
So I'll confer with Mr. McElveen and see how we can get that moving forward. Ms. Hines?
Yes, thank you.
Report on the Audit Committee?
Reporting on the Audit Committee. Thank you. Audit Committee had our monthly meeting just yesterday evening, where we got status of the FY18 audit plan development process. The school board will be putting together our FY18 audit plan over the next couple of months. We should vote on it certainly by July, because that is the plan for the audits for the next fiscal year. So we started to discuss that, and that will be on our agenda again for our next meeting, which is April 26th. We also got a status update on current audit engagements. We took a look at the draft of Regulation 1410, which is which governs investigations of fraud, waste, and abuse. And thanks so much to Mr. Foster for helping with that draft. We did have some other thoughts, and so we'll be looking at that again at our next meeting. And we saw some we received from business process turnover audits, and we also received the performance review of the online campus, which was a very interesting conversation. The online campus audit performance review that we received, which is on board docs, will actually be changed a little bit in response to some of the comments from the audit committee. So be looking for the updated version to come in the next few days.
Ms. McLaughlin?
Ms. Hines, thank you for noting that there was a presentation on the online campus report. And I do understand that there's going to be some adjustments to it, but I was wondering if you or anyone, any of the other audit committee members might want to speak to the merits of the full board having any more information. I mean, is it something that we should just go look at it on our own, and if we've got questions, or is it something that will come to a board work session?
This is a question that's been coming up. As we have performance reviews, I think there's more interest in the board seeing some of these performance reviews. It's a little bit of a different audit story, right? And so we talked about this a little bit at our meeting last night. What do we do when there's a performance review? Do we want the board to have basically the exact same, 90-minute conversation that the audit committee had? Maybe not every time, because what's the point of the committee if we do that? So I think we probably need to discuss that, and maybe that's a charge that the audit committee could take on over the next couple months to make a recommendation to the board about how we handle performance reviews that are of interest to several board members. But I leave it to the board.
So the board did ask to look at the transportation audit, and so we are going to put that. We're going to put that on a work session. I don't have it in front of me what our date is for that. We're pretty full on that, but I think that would be worthwhile for the audit committee to consider. Just in the future, are there other ways that? But it clearly has to come to the full board. What the audit committee does. So.
Well, sure. The audit committee reports. The question is, do we have the exact same report from the OAG?
Right.
And have the same, 90-minute conversation. Maybe something where, we do have the MP3.
Correct.
From last night's audit committee meeting. Maybe if board members could listen to that, some of your questions would be answered.
So some of the questions would be answered.
Just so that it's a shorter, that's just my thought, so that we're not.
And particularly, we could even have something where if board members had particular questions, they could go to the audit chair and see if that question was already answered during the committee conversation, and rather than listen to 90 minutes, no offense, but yeah. Ms. Corbett-Sanders, it's Ms. Corbett-Sanders.
I'm confused because I'd asked questions. Ms. Hines gave an answer. I didn't get a chance to say whether or not what she said was addressing my question, so then I know you wanted to speak to it, but I wasn't done asking my questions.
All right. What other question do you have?
So I understood from Ms. Hines that she's trying to figure out what might be process-wise, what we do with our performance audits. And I guess the way I understand the board's overall governance is that, yes, the audit committee reviews the information with staff, but then the audit committee then reports to the full board. And so, yes, we can watch the MP3, but I'm a little concerned about if the only way the full board, the 12 of us, hear what 4 board members heard in audit committee through an update like tonight, then we're really not all 12 of us being engaged in the work of the audit, which is one of the very important things that we do. The board of supervisors have committee of the whole on everything, so that ends up really allowing them to be engaged in their committee work. So this one worries me a little bit about the response, that it will be either studied for a couple of months through the audit committee. I think instead we should just be looking at the current process of our governance, which is if the audit committee reports to the full board, in what manner? Is it, in the past, we did a 30-minute debriefing in our work sessions. And sometimes if the committee chair thought it would take an hour, then they did an hour. So in something like this, I fully support Ms. Hines as chair, bringing a 30-minute debrief to the board on this is what the performance audit was. Everybody, I hope you read it before we came into the work session. Does anybody want staff to provide a more in-depth discussion? But it shouldn't be a matter of layering on your bureaucracy. We need our work sessions to be where the board members get a comprehensive reporting out of the committee work. Like, I'm going to report tonight on governance, but tonight I can't possibly give you all the depth of what was discussed in a 2-hour governance committee meeting on the naming rights issue. So that I was going to come to you anyway and say, we need to put that on to the next work session, that I get 30 minutes to an hour, depending on what's needed, and you and I can confer on that. So to short circuit this whole thing to something simpler, I would just ask that the audit committee make a determination on how much time they think the full board needs to be briefed on it. Ms. Hines brings that recommendation to you, and we at least can count on 30 minutes.
So every chair every committee chair can ask to have a work session for that committee added. And at that point, the chair puts it on a work session and discusses with the committee chair how much time they think they need and what staff members need to be present. So Ms. Hines and the committee can certainly schedule a particular an audit committee work session with and bring it to the board. Bring your work to the board.
Well, to bring the update on the on-campus performance audit, I would hope whoever is audit chair going forward, those type of performance audits should be brought to the board for a minimum of 30 minutes once it's ready to be presented, and then the board can determine if they need more time after that to discuss it. I mean, there's a reason why the audit committee reports to the board, but it doesn't happen in 5-minute updates like tonight. And so that's why I'm kind of pushing the issue this evening is I think we need to be cognizant of what our prior process has been. In my 5 years on the board, the committee chairs, when there is committee work that's been produced, it does ultimately come back to the full board, and it's not in a Thursday night update. So I completely respect that the online campus performance audit's having some adjustments made to it, and in good reason. But when it's done and complete, it would be my hope that the audit committee is going to bring it to a future work session.
Ms. Corbett-Sanders?
Ms. McLaughlin, I think that everybody on the audit committee agrees with you that once an audit, a performance audit, has been completed and has had the major issues that were raised within the audit committee addressed by the Auditor General's staff and also with the response from the staff at central office, then it might be ready to bring to the full board. I can envision that there are times where a performance audit comes out and it says everything is going great, there are no findings or minimal findings, and at that point I can expect that perhaps the auditor, the audit committee chair or the audit committee as a whole may suggest at a Thursday night meeting, hey, we had this audit, but there's no reason to take time up on a work session agenda. So it really needs to be addressed case by case and use the opportunity of the Thursday night to discuss that something was brought to the attention of the committee or not. And so last month, we had the transportation audit, and there was a recognition that that was something that should come to the whole board at a work session. But what Mrs. Hines was saying is that the online campus audit is not ready for that quite yet. And so there is work.
I understand that, Ms. Corbett-Sanders, but where I'm very glad that I've tried to get clarity tonight is, as you heard from our colleagues, there wasn't clarity. So it became maybe we'll discuss it and see what the process might be. I think you've captured it very well and appropriately that the audit committee, when it's reasonable and needed, that you'll go ahead and bring it to the
debate
full
on this.
It's not a debate. I think it's a matter of clarity.
That's fine, but we have a time and place to discuss this, and I think you've made your
our business meetings are the time and place for it, and so
you've made your point, Mr.
So
Moon,
is there the agreement that that's what we're going to do? That when they're ready to bring a performance audit to us, then they will confer with you to get that?
Then Ms. Hines will confer with the chair.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Do you have other speakers as well that you're?
I had Mr. Moon who wanted to speak.
Why don't we listen? I would like to hear what other speakers want to say, and if the board is in a position to make a vote tonight, I will be guided by whatever,
All right, Mr. Moon.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question to our audit committee chair. After you receive a report of audit from Auditor General's office, they are posted for the rest of us and also for public to see. And if we could again, maybe this is a request, maybe we should be checking our board doc regularly and see whether there's anything coming out of audit committee. But if our audit committee chair or clerk of the school board, could just alert the rest of the board that there are reports posted on the board doc And if you want to take a look, and go and take a look, and if any report, any board member feels that a certain report deserves, full board's maybe a attention and time at a work session, that could be brought to an audit committee chair's attention, and audit committee chair could present to the chairman to see whether that can be scheduled for a further discussion or report presentation or discussion. And also another suggestion that I could make for chair's consideration is, in the past, I know our board is just overloaded with the work that we need to do. In the past, I think we try to set aside certain amount of time on a regular basis, for example, on a quarterly basis, and just set aside, setting aside the time. If the chair and audit committee chair feel that there is a need to present certain audit committee's audit report to the full board and have a discussion, we can use that time to do that. And I think until a couple of years ago, we used to do that. I think that somehow because of our overall workload, that's been taken away. But that's for chair and audit committee chair's consideration.
Mrs. Schultz?
So with respect, Mr. Moon, just about everything you just said, I believe the opposite. To say that the audit committee gets to decide what the full board will see as a performance audit, and that it's up to the rest of us to go to a website and look at a document just because it's posted, is divesting ourselves of the responsibility of one of the most important functions that, frankly, this board has spent and the previous board have spent a tremendous amount of time on behalf of a system that we govern and where we're stewards of $3 billion of the taxpayers' money. And if we have exactly 3 employees as a board, the clerk of the board, the superintendent of the school system, and the auditor general, that function is the transparency and accountability wing of our governing to the public. And if a segment of the board that is selected by the chair decides what it will or will not bring as a completed performance audit to the rest of the board, and it's just up to the rest of us to go look it up because it's posted online, we've divested ourselves to a subset of ourselves to review the work that is one of our employees' work and that we're charged in our own transparency and accountability. And if we're not going to review the performance audits, frankly, why do them? I mean, if you're going to do a performance evaluation of some segment of FCPS, and, I say this, on a night where we're talking about a $48 million budget gap that we're trying to close, and we're trying to close it by not giving a market scale adjustment to teachers and we're raising class size. Well, if there was a diligence of 12 members of the board to review performance audits and potentially have healthy dialogue, it's not something that we should be scared of. It's something that we should be embracing and understanding, not as a subset, but as a full and collective board, because no committee of the board is doing the work of the board does the work of the board. And I appreciate the concept that we're overworked, and it's true, and it's particularly true this year. It's particularly true right now with what we have going on. But just because it's hard doesn't mean we get to say, well, if it's important enough, one person, the chair of the audit committee, can decide what our workload will or won't be. And if it's important enough, they'll just let us know. And I'm not willing to give up the responsibility to, even if our schedule is insanely full, if the Auditor General has done the work and finished a performance evaluation, even if it's absolutely clean, I need to sit, I need to hear, I need to understand, and not be relied upon to go look it up online.
So I have Ms. Hines for a go back. I will say that there is always a way for board members to bring up issues, to refer them to committee, or to bring them before the full board. I do think that we perhaps need greater clarity on that, and the ability to be, in some ways, a little more nimble. So over the course of time, I've come to believe that we probably do need to have a forum topic just on our processes, so we have clarity on how both committees can take on issues that committee feels is within their purview, and also how individual board members can. I mean, we do have a method. We do, and we have been, unfortunately, a little sidetracked because our forums have been canceled time and time again. In times past, we could have done things a little bit more quickly, and that's. But I do think that we that whole process should have some clarity. Ms. Hines.
Yeah, thank you. No one is afraid of these audits coming out publicly. I mean, the whole point of audit is that we are being transparent with the community about what we're doing, and so that if we want to do more of it, they understand why. If we want to do less, they understand why. If we want to spend more or less on it, everybody understands why. I mean, I think we all believe that audit is part of good management, and it's part of transparency, and it's part of our responsibility. So there's no fear involved here of having information out there in front of the board at a work session. It's more, I think, as Ms. Evans said, it's more a fear of time. Can we manage it all? So, but what I hear, and believe me, I, as the audit committee chair, do not want to be the gatekeeper on this. That does not sound like a comfortable position for anybody. So I wonder, we have, on April 24th, our next all-day work session, is that when we have the transportation report coming?
Madam Clerk, do you have that in front of you?
Well, I only ask, and as you're looking it up, what I might like to do, I mean, I hear comments here, and I'm not sure this is the best setting for us to discuss and vote. I was thinking maybe at the next work session.
Well, it's really not. This is not on the agenda tonight.
So,
we have board matters for reports, and this really isn't. I'm concerned that this was not put on the agenda for a topic for discussion or for a vote. So I think it would be.
And I feel like people need to think about it anyway. So if we have a little time on the April 24th work session for audit to just have a few minutes, give a fuller report on some of these, on this particular, we're happy to do a fuller report on the online, report. If there's time on the 24th, and then also maybe get a sense of the board about how we would like to approach.
Well, I will
Because I will
say,
tell you, just so that everybody understands, the audit committee meetings, we get lots of information. I mean, we get a lot of little audits, and so I don't think there's anything to be said for bringing everything from the audit committee to a work session. And we have to decide what things we want to bring forward, and who's going to make that decision.
So I do have a couple more people who want to speak. I would urge board members, though, not to debate this tonight, because it is not on our agenda tonight, either for debate or for a vote. So, Mrs. Huff.
Thank you. So not for debate, but definitely I think this is very important for me to point out that over a year ago, we had a forum topic that I brought forward on this very topic. And I have actually since asked for the audio of that forum topic, where we voted unanimously, and it was reported to me that it got overwritten and it cannot be found. So I think it is important that we remember that we voted unanimously that the AG would be putting in her work plan when she would be coming to us on this very topic. So it wouldn't be up to the audit chair or the audit, it would be through the audit committee to have a regular report as part of the work plan. And so as an audit committee member, I'll bring it up at our next meeting and possibly at the work session to remind us of what we voted on and to ensure that that does get on the work plan, because we did vote on it.
So you're saying that the audio is unavailable? So hopefully we have some minutes, and I can, I'll go back and see if I have a record that, of those minutes. So we can discuss that again. Again, I hope people will moderate their conversation because this is not on our agenda for discussion. Mrs. Strauss?
Yes, I believe the agreement was that there would be a report at least quarterly by need, and so, but at least quarterly. So, but that we can go back and discuss. It is already on the agenda, I think, for April. If there's another report, if people wanted every work session, if that is the will of the board, we can do that as well. So as the reports come. So you are scheduled at the next work session.
Ms. McLaughlin?
Yeah, I really appreciate the additional comments that have been shared, and Mr. Moon, I think you captured what Ms. Huff was also talking about, and what I recall for the last 5 years our practice has been, which is that there are these sort of quarterly parts of the work session agenda where the committee chairs actually come forward and bring a more substantive report than the 5 minutes we do at our business meetings. I don't think tonight has been a debate about any particular issue. My question all along was simply a process question. What has been our governance to date? And I think Mr. Moon captured it very well of what we have been doing by our governance standards. So I appreciate, Ms. Evans, your discomfort in being worried that this looks like a debate, but I just want at least my colleagues to know I wasn't planning to debate anything. I just wanted clarity on the board's governance process for bringing information back to the full board. And I will remind some of my colleagues who were in the audit committee, when I attended a prior audit committee, I was reminded that the committee work is very dense, and additional board members who are not part of the committee can make that process longer, and that the work that comes to the audit committee ultimately comes to the full board. So I think that that's perfectly fine, and that's why I'm glad that we are looking at having performance audits, whether it's on a quarterly basis, but or if the chair of the committee thinks it should come in a more timely manner, but at least we have a process in place so that the full board will get what I think is important information when it comes to performance audits.
Ms. Hines?
Yes, thank you. So just, Madam Chair, I think we are on, audit is on the agenda for the 24th, but we actually will not be able to discuss what's on there because it's Regulation 1410, which won't be ready because we've put that off to the next meeting. So if we could use that time instead to have this conversation and get a sense of the board about how we want to, how often and what we want to report, would that be all right? We can talk later too.
So let's have a conversation about what was supposed to be on there and when we're going to have.
Yes.
Yes, I was just looking for my chair's notes because I believe it was in chair's notes.
Yes.
So, and we do need to have transportation, but I believe that's
I think it's later.
at a later time.
Yeah.
All right, so we can discuss scheduling for that.
Okay, thanks.
And with that, I will call in Ms. McLaughlin for a governance committee update.
And given my line of questions, I expect any board member who wants to now grill me on my committee report, you're more than welcome to. So actually, the governance committee met this morning for a robust 2+ hour conversation, which involved 5 directors of student activities, as well as 2 high school principals. I want to thank Dan Paris and Bill Curran. Dan especially, you were very instrumental in bringing these really wonderful school leaders to come and meet with the governance committee to discuss our naming rights, corporate naming rights, draft policy and draft regulations. And the represented schools were West Springfield, Lee, Jeb Stuart, Oakton, Robinson, along with the principals from McLean and Oakton. And certainly invite any of my committee members if there's anything I don't capture. But the heart of what we learned is that our directors of student activities rely very heavily every single year operationally on the athletic boosters, the gate receipts, because through the recession, FCPS simply has not been able to adequately fund the operations needed to run some of the premier athletic programs in the country. And so we use today's conversation to not only talk about the merits of corporate naming rights for facilities, but also to really appreciate and understand that we have a tale of different cities right here in the county in terms of what revenue comes in to each of the individual high schools through the directors of student activities, what the athletic boosters are able to bring to the table. And it was certainly stated and understood that each year over $10 million are brought in to our schools from our athletic booster support. And so it goes without saying that the naming rights policy is of extreme importance to everyone. And we did have a chance to really appreciate their perspective on this. The governance committee is set to review next month at our next meeting input from the foundation and our foundation director, Elizabeth Murphy, along with Jay Garant, who also understand and will bring information to us about the corporate sponsorship and what might serve this division well. So we're looking forward to that, as well as soliciting information from the various chambers. So progress is being made, and I, again, want to thank Mr. Paris for bringing those valuable voices to the table. To my governance colleagues, if there's anything else I didn't capture that you'd like to add, I will welcome you adding it.
Oh, sorry, if I may.
All right, Ms. Tawczak.
Since we're early, I want to thank you, Ms. McLaughlin, for helping organize that. I think it was really insightful and an important conversation we needed to have and to hear as we create these naming rights. So I think it's helpful to slow down and do it properly. And I think one important thing that I took away as well, it was approximately $10 million coming in, and over the past years, the reduced income from boosters and gate sales, in addition to the increased burden on the individual schools to pay for things that used to be done centrally as we've gone through budget cuts in every department. Where we only heard from athletics today, they have seen increased burden on their end and decreased resources. So this is critical. I think it was important that, as some of them said, no one wants to be here, no one wants to sell the naming rights to their schools, but they really do want to do anything we can to support their kids and programs. So I really appreciated the conversation.
Calling Mrs. Strauss for a report from the forum held earlier this evening.
Yes, thank you. The board had a forum discussion as to whether to bring to a work session a discussion and review the changes to the FLE curriculum over the past decade, both within FCPS and compared to the Virginia Health SOL. The Virginia DOE recommended FLE curriculum and the locally developed FLE curriculum, and review the role of FLECAC. The board decided to refer these questions to the FLE committee and for them to come to a report to the board in October. Thank you.
We now go to board matters, and I call on Ms. Hines.
I'm sorry, thank you. Just a few things from the Hunter Mill District. Had a great meeting this morning. Thanks so much to Mark Ingrao and the other members of the Greater Reston Chamber for hosting Mie Devers and me. Mie is the principal at Dogwood Elementary School, and we were there this morning to talk about the possibility of bringing the primary years IB program to Dogwood Elementary. It would be the second elementary school in Fairfax County with that program. And I'm very excited that Dogwood is thinking about doing that. I think it's a great fit for that school. And Mie and I were both very grateful to the Reston Chamber for hearing our excitement and hopefully thinking about ways that they can partner with the school to make that happen. Also, I was so excited to be at the Nova Maker Fair on Sunday at South Lakes High School and Langston Hughes Middle School in Reston. If you haven't been, you got to try to go next year. It's just so much fun. And there was a teacher meetup first thing in the morning at 10 o'clock. And we had some great FCPS teachers and librarians talking about all the ways that they use maker spaces in their buildings. And it's a great tool for teaching and learning, hands-on, inquiry-based, very creative, problem-solving, collaborative. It hits all the important things that we're trying to do with kids in school now. So as a teacher, I had a wonderful day there. I had the chance to meet with a couple of social workers who serve the Hunter Mill District. They talked about how many students and families they work with, how it's clear how important their work is and how dedicated they are to those kids and families. They are stretched thin, our social workers. If there's one place where we really should find money in the budget to do more, I would say it's social workers. I hear that from principals all the time, and I'm just so grateful to them for the work that they do. Looking forward to the NSBA conference this weekend with some of my colleagues. Have a good weekend.
Ms. Palchik?
Yes, thank you. I first of all want to thank all of the advocates, parents, family members who came out to my first school funding and advocacy training workshop. It was a great experience with a group that's motivated to learn more how funding works and how they can get involved. I also had the honor of joining my colleagues, Mr. McElveen, Ms. Evans, Supervisor Gross, and Delegate Plum at the Student Peace Awards. It was my first time attending, and just really, really heartwarming, and gave me a lot of hope for the future. At the same time, attended the TJ Mentorship Fair with Mr. Moon. It's been many years, over 15 since I was one of those mentorship kids, but nothing nearly compared to what we saw, kind of like the engineering fair. These kids are remarkable. So thank you for that great experience. And I want to thank Dr. Dimitriadis at Westgate Elementary School for taking me on a tour once again, last year as the AP, this year as the new principal. They're doing amazing things, and got a chance to chat with all of the FESEP and Head Start students during their lunchtime and hear their amazing stories. They're just really excited and motivated and learning a lot and ready for kindergarten. And last but not least, I want to congratulate Principal Chad Lehman of Luther Jackson Middle School. He is the Region 2 Outstanding New Principal of the Year. So proud of him. I know he's very beloved by students, teachers, and families. And I'm so glad that our regional assistant superintendents are helping lead the way. I know it's been the pilot year and a lot of extra work for them to help us be able to celebrate more of our staff at every school site, but I think the work will pay off. It's been great to see them tweet out all the surprises in the schools, and I hope we will be able to help celebrate with them next year. So with that, have a good night, and I look forward to learning with my colleagues at NSBA.
Mrs. Up? Pass. Mrs. Schultz?
So I missed two of my favorite things, the Northern Virginia football banquet. I had a sick football player at home, and the Robinson Regional Science. So I appreciate the rundown, Dr. Lockard. I had a returning college student, so hopefully we get to a norm next year. I want to thank my high school and most of my middle school principals as I make the circuit, talking to you about the superintendent search, talking to you about the budget. Really some of the most productive, helpful conversations I've had to date. And I continue to work through my, my principals and look forward to reaching as many of you as possible before we have a budget vote. I do want to thank specifically Principal Riddell. I had a budget town hall last night. Usually I do a series of citizen budget town halls. Unfortunately, our board calendar isn't allowing for those, so that's going to be the only one I think I'm going to be able to fit in. It was a robust participatory budget town hall. I think those who came, those who asked phenomenal questions, the Boy Scouts who were there, maybe asked some of the best questions, very salient points, and for the continued engagement of all my community members, regardless of where they are on various issues. I want somebody who doesn't normally get our thanks as a board, our school security, safety and security staff has risen to really phenomenal challenges in the last few weeks, and we thank them very, very much. You don't realize sometimes some of the people behind the scenes who help make our jobs that are already, sometimes akimbo, work a lot easier, a lot better, a lot safer. And in that vein, I don't want to be one of the major networks that goes without talking about this tonight. The Rockville rape was a seismic event for the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. And a lot of questions are coming in. If you're not getting answers, it's not because we don't have answers or we don't want to talk about them. We are collecting information. The senior staff is working very hard to give us some updates. Where possible, we'll respond individually. But that was a catastrophic event, and I think it's very important to know that each board member up here values all the children in our schools, and we're going to do whatever it takes to educate children where they are, but ensure that the education they receive is not at the expense of the safety of another student. And I hope that our dialogue as we continue with senior staff on this issue is conveyed that first we need to possess information before we can share information. Dr. Lockhart sent out a broadcast message on this issue. There does need to be vigilance in our schools, and it shouldn't be on the part of students to provide their own safety. It is the adults in the building, and we do care. Some of the responses from neighboring jurisdictions have frankly befuddled me, and I don't understand them. We have a grave duty to provide not only education to people who come to us with extreme educational poverty, but also educate everybody and keep them safe. On a happy note, I'm going to end on a happy note. I have a third grade class at Union Mill who had an exceptional award, and they got to have game day today. And I have a third grader who went to take a game to participate, and it was a gigantic chess set. And I said, no, we couldn't take it, so we had to take something else. But the highlight is that FCPS swept the Virginia Scholastic Chess Championships. McNair K through 3, McNair K through 5, Kilmer K through 8, Chantilly K through 12. We took it all. So checkmate. Congratulations to all those kids who are using their brain strategically. We celebrate your Virginia win.
Ms. Corbett-Sanders.
Sure. Thank you. This weekend, there's going to be the Wolverine Green Bike-a-thon, and so I encourage people to support that effort and come out with your bikes and support the development of, or the final touches on the outdoor learning space at West Potomac. This past week, I had the opportunity to not only participate in the Real Food for Kids event, that was a great event, so I was glad that Laura talked a little bit about that, as well as the town hall meeting in South County with Supervisor Stork to talk about the budget this year. And I also had a wonderful opportunity to participate in the Board of Supervisors meeting this past Tuesday about, that included the Northern Virginia Regional Task Force on Gangs, as well as a delegation from the Police Department and the Board of Supervisors to talk about this issue in our community. And I encourage all of my colleagues to participate in the next meeting of this group. They've invited both boards to participate in this meeting on June 13th from 10 to 2 to talk about these issues. I also had the opportunity to participate with my colleague, Mrs. Derenak Koufax, in a tour of Edison's STEAM program, and I'm going to let her talk a little bit more about that, as well as I'm going to invite everybody to put on their calendars April 1st, the Special Education Conference. It's a great opportunity to learn about the systems of support that we have here in Fairfax County.
Mrs. Strauss?
Thank you. I'd like to first congratulate Kimberly Willison, our fine principal at Clearview Elementary. She has been named an FCPS Cares of the Month Educator. So congratulations, Ms. Willison. Thank you, Dr. Lockhart, on your report on the science fair. It was very exciting and very proud to see the wonderful projects, and not only to see the youngsters who win, but to be able to go amongst the projects and listen to the students because they're there to present their projects and what they found as a result of their experimentation. I want to thank the parent leaders of the McLean Langley schools who organized a budget town hall. Mr. McElveen and I were there, and Kristen Michael did a wonderful presentation. We are always very pleased when Kristen can present the budget. I also want to congratulate Colby Dzelik, who was a recent graduate of Westfield High School. He is opening tonight on Broadway in Miss Saigon. And he was a CAPI winner, and boy, do I remember his talent. He won for dancer and choreographer, and he was outstanding. So tonight, as we speak, he is performing on Broadway, one of our own. So thank you.
That's great. Mr. Moon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As adding just briefly on the Fairfax County Regional Engineering and Science Fair, does any one of us know that this is actually 62nd year of the fair? That started even before I was born. It's hard to believe that. And I thought I was pretty good with the math and science, but every year, whenever I participate in the award ceremony, and they read the descriptions of these grand prize winning projects, I get to feel more and more that I don't know whether I ever learned science. It's just so amazing, the kinds of projects these kids do. It's hard to believe that they are only high school students. It's like, it looks like they're like PhD dissertations. And on Sunday, there were more than 600 students for just a Sunday. But actually, since we are due to the capacity limitation, my understanding is that they limit the number of projects to come to the weekend from each school to be 22. So actual number of students participating in this engineering and science fair is far greater than the 600 students who were there on Sunday. I was happy to join Interim Superintendent Dr. Lockhart and a couple of fellow school board members, including Mr. McElveen and Mrs. Strauss.
Ms. McLaughlin?
First of all, I very much want to thank the Braddock District residents who came out last night for my budget town hall. There were over 45 people who came, and even though it was supposed to run from 7 to 9, we were there till 10 p.m. So it was quite a robust conversation, and it was very heartening when the question was asked, would people be willing to pay more taxes to support our schools, and almost the entire room raised their hand. They did share with me that they still hope that our board will do its very best to protect the classroom and any budget reductions that need to take place. They certainly are going to bring some ideas to me that I look forward to sharing with all of you. But it really is so gratifying to see how engaged our community is in wanting strong schools and supporting our classroom. The other thing that, on a very happy note, as the mother of a two-time semi-finalist on the men's basketball team at Woodson High School, and after 55 years in its history as a high school, the boys did win the state championship, the Virginia 6A state championship. So it was quite quite a long time coming, and the Woodson community couldn't be more excited about it. Props to Mr. Moon and Mr. McElveen, who were able to go down there and represent the board. And also we had Mary Beth Lefglass, Woodson mom and leadership team member, along with Frances Ivy. And if I'm missing any other LT members, I apologize, but I did see the Facebook picture. I had a family commitment, so I could not be there for that truly exciting and remarkable victory on behalf of the boys. And since it is a state championship, I understand Mr. McElveen will be able to recognize them. Isn't that our newest thing, that if you get a state title, you get to put in a request for a special school board recognition if you win state titles. So anyway, I'm looking forward to the National School Board Association Conference as well with many of my colleagues. I have found over the years that some of the most valuable ways that we can learn outside of our district on how to improve public education has come from the conference. And so I'm looking forward to not only learning, but also hearing from my other colleagues who will be there. So again, go Cavs.
Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to say safe travels to those heading to the NSBA conference, and I look forward to hearing good reports. But I've got nothing to report. Thank you.
Ms. Derenak Kaufax?
I want to thank everyone who came out last evening to the Lee District Budget Town Hall. Really appreciated your comments and really appreciated your time. Thank you all also to Ms. Kristen Michael for your assistance. It was much appreciated. Springfield Estates, I just lost it. Their Wordmasters team achieved the highest honors, and what they did is they competed amongst 150,000 students who do this annually, and their fifth grade team scored 184 points out of a possible 200 and placed 6th in the nation for the Wordmasters Challenge. So congratulations to Springfield Estate's fifth grade team. And also I wanted to congratulate all the winners in Region 3. As Dahlia mentioned, some of those, I'm not going to take the time to recognize them all at this point, but Meryl Dade was the Region 3 Principal of the Year, and there was also a outstanding new Principal of the Year, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for that name.
It's Amy Miller.
Thank you, Miss Amy Miller. I appreciate that. But I do appreciate the new system and our ability to honor more people. We have so many outstanding employees, and it's wonderful to have that recognition. I will be one of the members that will be attending just for the public. School board members are also required to have continuing education opportunities for them throughout the year, and so several of us will be attending a National School Boards Conference from Friday through Monday in Denver, Colorado. So I look forward to getting lots of new ideas and coming back and sharing them with all of you and the public.
Mr. McElveen?
I want to take a moment to applaud all my colleagues who have been out in the community engaging people on the budget. You know, as an at-large member, it's impossible for us to get to all of those meetings. But I think it says something that everyone on this board is taking time to do that. And, you know, I was with Ms. Strauss at an event in McLean earlier this week, and a little girl asked a question, well, how can we make a difference? And the way you make a difference is you just have to continue advocating. And, you know, I do see that as part of our job on the school board. We have to stand up for the schools. So thank you to my colleagues for doing that. And alluding to Ms. McLaughlin's comment about her meeting supposed to run from 7 to 9 p.m. It actually went to 10 p.m. It sounds a lot like our meeting tonight. So wish everyone a happy spring break.
I will say I was very honored to be a part of the 2017 Student Peace Awards of Fairfax County, where I recognized some amazing young people with incredible projects. I urge all of my colleagues who weren't able to attend, Mr. McElveen was there, Ms. Palchik was there, and I think we were all incredibly impressed with the fact that these young people were working on such issues as helping refugees, human trafficking, and bringing clubs to their schools to promote tolerance and kindness. So I was pleased to be able to present letters of congratulations on behalf of the board to those outstanding students from Fairfax County. I also wanted to thank the officers at the Mason District Police Station, particularly Captain Rogers, for putting together a presentation and a briefing on gang activity. I appreciate Mr. Moon joining me for that, and Mr. Plattenberg and Region Assistant Superintendent Dr. Zuluaga. It was a very informative briefing, and I very much appreciate the time and attention that they gave to us for that very important issue. I also wanted to say how much I was thrilled to go to the to the Falls Church High School Pyramid Art Show. Saw some just amazing displays of artwork. I remember looking at a couple and saying, oh, this is incredible for a middle schooler, and saying, oh, no, this is elementary school. Even more incredible. So there were just amazing work of art for Falls Church High School, Jackson Middle School, Woodburn Elementary School, Camelot Elementary School, Graham Road, Pine Springs, Fairhill, Timberlane, and Westlawn. Those are all the schools in the Falls Church High School Pyramid, and I just want to congratulate all of those that put together that amazing show. And last but not least, I will say I am going to have a budget town hall and community meeting on Monday, April 3rd at 7 p.m. at Falls Church High School, and I look forward very much to the community joining me there, and I welcome my fellow board members to attend as well. With that, this meeting is adjourned.